What is going on, guys? Welcome back. Commentary for you. The recap for these live streams, under 5 minutes, already up, gorlickbread.com. Cheaper than what my memberships here used to be. If you follow Girl World, if you know, hey, listen, I want to stay up to date, but I don't really want to watch hours of Chantal, all you got to do, pay a monthly fee. I'll give you the recaps and some live reactions as well. There's a couple things I want to focus on with these live streams. First and foremost, I find it interesting the story that Chantal laid out to us because it doesn't make any sense. According to her, Salah and her went out with family, friends to have some type of dinner. That I believe. But what I don't believe is while there, Salah's family started to engage with her about the future of their relationship. And during this, Chantal talks about what amounts to a very deep conversation with an Arab woman who she claims never got married, never had children. What I find so odd is that Chantal doesn't speak the native language there. Yet she is having this very, very detailed, very specific, very personal conversation with someone, all of which fits into the narrative that she's trying to create on her channel. And we never heard about this person before. We also see in real time that when Salah comes in toward the end of the stream, he has food, he has shisha. That is when she talks about how hard it is going to be to leave. That is when she talks about what she will miss. She also talks a lot about Pete's, the Villa 2.0, and how Salah is apparently understanding of Pete's. He overlooks Pete's, but he doesn't want to overlook other things. So she's been very, very specific with Salah wanting her to wear the hijab, wanting her to continue Muslim faith. But apparently, there's going to be some things they've discussed that cross the line. She's never really specific with what those are. I know a lot of people are basically going to look at this and say, how can you get a divorce if you're not married? How can you sit there and so passively say that you're just going to sell your wedding ring? At this point, when I look at the total situation we've seen, we have to understand that Chantal has used a kitten to try to raise money, a child with a disability to raise money, her health to try to raise money, and essentially now she is exploiting, whether it's genuine or not, a marriage or her relationship to raise money. And in the midst of all this, she takes this unbelievable approach of she's not willing to put in the work to build a life with Salah. She's not willing to find ways through a second wife, which again, she claimed to have spoke to these women tonight with a story that even as she told it didn't make sense, to the point that she had to go back and kind of recant the story because she essentially said, oh, well, they're first wife and second wife, but they're also sisters. And then she had to say, well, no, they aren't sisters. It's almost like Chantal has these imaginary storylines in her head, and she just fabricates people that she meets along the way to kind of fill in the blanks. So she's not willing to stay there and work, helping Salah, establishing the relationship, whatever it is that she wants us to believe they had. But she's also steadfast that she doesn't want anyone else to be with him, and admittingly doesn't want him to be happy. Set aside your fundraisers, set aside your money, set aside traveling. Imagine saying that to someone. I'm not willing to sit here and help you reestablish your home, fix our relationship, work together, find happiness, work on my health. I'm not willing to do any of those things. Oh, but by the way, I also don't want you to go out and find happiness in someone else with a family. I mentioned in my recap, that is one of the most Chantal things I've ever heard. It is the most selfish thing you could ever say to someone after performatively crying. And to that point, I think we also realize Salah is more than likely done. More than likely done. He probably already has someone lined up, to be totally honest. And his family probably gave that $300 donation. I mean, the hardest thing I've seen Chantal do all year, the most work I've seen Chantal put in, was sitting here today and trying to force herself to cry. Because I think when she talks for 2 hours about this, you understand from her own words, this was all just acting. Right? This was her just coming online and playing the part of a Muslim woman. All that talk about a trad wife, all that talk about here's my daily routine, here's me cooking meals. I love when company comes over and I can serve drinks. It was all just a facade. She didn't enjoy any of that. And now, essentially, what she wants is her community to buy her way back out of it. When she sits there and says, during this stream, going over all those donations people made, why don't people just leave me alone? Well, Chantal, you're the one that constantly brings this up. You're constantly publishing these feelings. And most of the time, you're violating terms of service in the process. You're sitting there and saying, when your visa runs get brought up, that you don't need to do visa runs. You could stay there as long as possible, but then also denouncing that there would be a timeline for your visa runs, knowing that you've already told us you were taking them to Qatar. So which is it? You didn't take them, or you don't need them now? Because you no longer get to say that you didn't need them to begin with. I just don't understand how you can sit there and lie to these people, try to deceive these people, when right now you need these people, because even in this video, you said your parents are unwilling to give you money. And Chantal, I would really, really like to know why in the world Salah had this bad joke yesterday about $10,000. A joke that makes absolutely no sense. Why would he just randomly bring up that amount? And again, what was the context of the joke? We have seen how this has played out over the last 3 years. We understand where this has been culminating to the last 3 years. You've sat here and said how much you love Salah, how much you love the Middle East, how much you love all these things. But the problem is you love other things more. Whether it's your edibles, whether it's your food choices, or whether it's just wanting to sit around and do nothing. That is what has finally won. But to be fair, I don't think Chantal is headed home anytime soon. Love to know your thoughts on this. Appreciate you watching it. Top comments from the last video. And just like Chantal reaching for a tissue as she fake cries into a camera, there is no way that I cannot be back as soon as I can with more commentary.